It's good to be here, and especially in Kenya. It's good to see Alan again. I last saw him and met him in South Africa, and now I'm glad to be here in Kenya with him, where he's from. And it's good to see Sister Emma, and some new people to meet as well, and Brother James. And yes, I think we shall start off with the prayer before we jump in. The topic is going to be about God's judgments, or supposedly as you judge, so shall you be judged. So let's kneel for prayer. Father who created the heavens and the earth, we just pray to you, and we ask you that you lead us in our study as we're going to study your word. Father, please just show us more things that are beautiful in your word. And so we just pray and ask that you reveal to us in your holy name. Amen. Okay, so Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1. So let's go to Matthew chapter 7 verse 1. So it'll be good for someone to read it once he has found it.
It says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged."
So this is a key principle about God's judgment. As you judge, you shall be judged. And this is vital to understand as to how God judges us. Because the way we judge is by human standards, and we can see that in John chapter 8 and verse 15. So John chapter 8 and verse 15, and I'll read it as it says. "You judge after the flesh, I judge no man." The human standards by which we judge is after the flesh. Is what Christ says, "I judge no man," which is different from how we judge after the flesh. But yet in the same verse, God doesn't judge the way we judge. He just says, "You judge like that, I judge like this." So there's two distinctive judgmental principles that are enactment from humankind and enactment from God. I judge no man. And let's turn to John chapter 5 verse 22, which is, "If the Son judges no man, whom does the Father judge?" Chapter 5 verse 22. John chapter 5 verse 22. Anyone who's there can read it.
"For the Father judges no man, but has committed all judgment unto the Son."
We see that the Son judges no man. The Father judges no man. Who does God judge? No one. Okay. So that's vital to know that we judge after the flesh, but God judges no man. So there's two distinctive judgments occurring here. And so let's turn to Revelation chapter 6 verse 14 verse 16, because now there's a paradox that's going to happen here. Revelation chapter 6 verse 14.
"And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places.
And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains." So basically every person you can think of that's described here is a numerous amount of people. Talking about kings, great men, rich men, there's a lot of classified here. And verse 16 carries on to say, and said to the mountains, so these people are saying to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So two things which they want to hide themselves away from. The face of him that sitteth on the throne and the wrath of the Lamb. Now the wrath of God, I believe, will be dealt with later through our elder brother Bill Nathan. But for now, I want to look at the face of him that sitteth upon the throne. What do they see on the face of him that sitteth on the throne, by which that persuades them to have the mountains and rocks fall on them?
Fire, probably. Just countenance it as a flaming fire kind of.
Sure.
Anyways, continue.
Sure. Okay, so there's some idea you have. So I've got the minds working at
Kind
you.
of like, Moses and the children of Israel, in the eyes of the children of Israel, the Lord was as a consuming fire, right, on the mount. So similar concept that he's coming in the Father's glory, and that glory is as a consuming fire to them.
Okay, we will look more into that. So verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come, who shall be able to stand? Then immediately you start thinking that day of his wrath. So he's coming with punishment. But let's start taking verse 16 apart, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth upon the throne. So let's turn to 2 Corinthians 4 verse 6. Second, what do we find in the face of Jesus Christ?
And then you also have the wrath of the Lamb. It's such a contradictory statement, like the wrath of the Lamb, like imagine a lamb being wrathful, right?
Yes.
So it's an interesting picture.
A lamb being taken to the slaughter doesn't fight against you. But now here we read about the wrath of the Lamb, so you have the picture of him fighting against you. But let's turn to 2 Corinthians 4 verse 6. We will read what we find in the face of him that sitteth upon the throne, and it says, for God who commanded the light to shine out of darkness has shined in our hearts, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God, the character of God, in the face of Jesus Christ. So here we find in the face of Jesus Christ the glory of God, his character. So the day that Christ comes on the clouds, they're great kings, rich men, and they will be hiding themselves away from the face of him that sitteth upon the throne, because they see in God's face the character. It will be a standard by which they will judge themselves and condemn themselves. And not only that, but it will shine into their hearts, giving the light of the knowledge of the character of God. And that is the standard by which they will judge themselves to condemnation.
And that will crush them.
That will crush them. That will bring that wish of crush upon them. And it's interesting to note how we will judge angels. How will we judge angels? Because 1 Corinthians 6, because after Christ comes, we deal with the judgment of angels. 1 Corinthians 6 verse 1 to 3. So let's turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. And from verse 1 we're going to read through to verse 3. And it says, dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? So it makes sense to know that if a man has a problem with someone, to go before the judge and to judge according to the law. So it's the same as at that day of judgment that's going to occur when Christ comes on the clouds. The law of God is going to be a standard by which men will judge themselves. And Eloy talks about it as well, which we'll get into later. But verse 2 carries on. Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters? And verse 3. Know ye not that ye shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? So how on earth are we going to judge angels? If God doesn't judge any man, and we shall be judged as we judge, we as Christians would definitely like to have the same judgment God has, to judge no man. But yet